That's great. Well, my name is Mark Speckman. I'm the my real job. I'm the head football coach at Menlo College, which is over in the Bay Area. And prior to that, I was at Willamette University up in Oregon. And prior to that, I was a high school coach in the Valley here, and had many memorable Sac Joaquin section championship games in Sacramento. Won a few, lost a few, and so kind of just done the football coaching, and kind of got into the speaking deal. Just kind of, you know, starting at Rotary clubs, and people say, hey, can you come talk here? Can you come talk there? And so I'm just going to share a little bit of my story. I don't know if I have a whole lot that you can take away from this. I know, you know, hopefully you want. I know a lot of people like to take notes, so I thought I'd just start out with some of the stuff I've learned. Go ahead. My lovely wife's going to run the computer for me. But some things I was taught. Go ahead, hit it. My mother taught me logic. If you follow that swing and break your neck, you're not going to the store with me. So that's something, you know, again, it's a good lesson to learn. Go ahead, hit it. My dad taught me irony. If you keep crying, I'll give you something to cry about, which I never understood that. Go ahead, hit it. My mother taught me about genetics. You're just like your father. And one more I learned here was taught me about the science of osmosis. Shut your mouth and eat your supper. So that's the content part of my talk. And now we'll go into something else here. Go ahead, hit it. You know, one of the things that IMS wants to do, that Menlo College wants to do, that people sitting in prison want to do, that people, CEOs of large companies, everybody wants to be a success. You know, everybody wants to be successful, and I'm not sure that we know how to be successful, but everybody wants it. You know, you come to work not to be mediocre, you come to work not to get fired, you come to work to be successful. And, you know, I've had a chance to talk, you know, to study success, and go ahead, hit it. Some people say to be successful, you need great leadership in your life. You need leaders, you need mentors, you need coaches, you need teachers, you need parents. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I really think we need to have that. Go ahead, hit it. And some people say, hey, if we're just motivated, you know, if we were just highly motivated, we would be successful. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And go ahead, hit it. And some people say it's all about attitude. You know, if you have the T-shirt that says attitude is everything. And if I would just, you know, put my mind to it, it's close to motivation, but it's more internal. You know, and there's some truth to that. And some people say it's all about potential. If we could ever just reach our God-given potential of what we are as human beings, if we could just reach our potential, we'd be successful. And kind of being my nature, I started studying this a little further, and I really started thinking about it. Go ahead, hit it. And so some people say, well, maybe it's leadership. But, you know, I've coached a long time, and I've coached some kids that had great parents and had every opportunity, and they turned out to be derelicts. And I've coached some kids that had nothing, had no leadership, no parenting, and they turned out to be great human beings. And so we all know people like that. So I think leadership's important, but I don't think it's the ingredient. Go ahead, hit it. Potential, you know, we all know people that have the potential to do more that aren't doing it. And we all know people that are doing great things that have no potential. And you wonder, how the heck are they doing that? And, you know, there's a lot of people doing some great things that have no business doing it. And I've seen all kinds of athletes that should be in the NFL that are washing cars or doing something, nothing wrong with washing cars, but if you're 6'4" and you can run a 4.6 40, you might want to go to the NFL. And, but they never got it together. They never reached their potential. Go ahead, hit it. So some people say it's all about attitude, and you know, I think it's great to have a good attitude at work, and I think it's great, all that's important, but I'm not sure it ensures success. You know, I had a friend who had I used to live in Merced, and I had a friend that had a hardware store, and he had a great attitude, great customer service, and everybody went there, and then Walmart moved in, and people wanted to save $1.49, and so he went out of business. He had a great attitude at his going out of business sale, but it didn't make him a success. And so I don't know if attitude's the thing. Go ahead, hit it. Maybe it's motivation. You know, I've had all kinds of motivated athletes that couldn't play. You know, guys that'll get there early and lift weights, guys that'll run until I tell them to stop, and then some guy will wake up late and shake his legs 2 times and go out and run like a 4.40, and you know, you go, well, listen, I'm going to start the fast guy, and that guy's been here all summer. Why don't you stand over here with me on the sideline? And the reality is that motivation's cool, but it doesn't always make you successful. Attitude's good, doesn't always make it. None of this makes you successful. It's just an ingredient. Go ahead. So I started going a little deeper into this. You know, maybe if I had a good attitude, you could actually lead me. Or conversely, maybe if you were a good leader, I'd have a good attitude. I don't know what I'm talking about now. I'm just making this up. Go ahead, hit it. You know, if I ever was motivated, I might reach my potential. If I ever reach my potential, I might be motivated to do it again. Hit it. Again, I'm deep water now. Motivationally, I know maybe if you're a better leader, I'd be motivated. Hit it. This thing about success, when you really start studying, it's kind of a complicated deal. And so I give this talk to my team every year, and I tell them, hey, if you want to be successful, just follow the arrows. And if you do that, I think, you know, you're going to be good to go. Seems like a simple formula. Because some of you are highly motivated. Some of you have a great attitude. Some of you have great leadership. Some of you have all those things. Some of you have none of those things. Everybody's at a different spot, and that's why it's so hard for people to be successful. Go ahead, hit it. Some thoughts on success, hit it. Love this quote. Michael Jordan said, why I succeeded, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. And that's a great quote. You know, I mean, that's the best, you know, arguably the best basketball player ever. And if you looked at that resume, you probably wouldn't put him in at the end of the game, that's for sure. And you wouldn't let him take the last shot. He's proven he's not very good at that. But, you know, this is what, you know, many people think is the most successful basketball player. Interesting story about that quote. It's a pretty famous quote. I read something about him the other day, and they asked him, hey, did you really say that? And he had a great answer. He said, I don't know. You know, because I think successful people, you kind of forget your failure. You know, you just don't dwell on them. You just move on. You don't worry about that missed shot. You worry about the next shot. So I like that quote. Here's another one I like. Success involves risk. If no one ever took risk, Michelangelo would have painted the Sistine floor. And if you think, you know, if you think about that, he could have knocked the floor out in a weekend. And, you know, so whatever compelled him to build the scaffold, lay upside down for 2 years, paint the ceiling, I don't know. It was pretty risky. But, you know, that's part of the deal, too. Go ahead, hit it. You know, one of my favorites is success is doing a common thing in an uncommon way. Success is doing a common thing in an uncommon way. You know, there's all kinds of football coaches out there. Some are better than others. There's all kinds of teachers. There's all kinds of maintenance people. There's all kinds of baristas. I check in a lot of hotels. Some people are way better at checking you in than others. So something even as simple as that can be done better. Success is doing a common thing in an uncommon way. It doesn't mean we got to be eons better. You know, they've done some research, and they say if you want to turn a team around, and I'm trying to turn the team around at Menlo. It's my first year. This is my first season at Menlo. But it's not like you got to get 100% better. You know, if we just got 3% better, they think, you know, statistics say if we just got 3% better in our statistics, or if we got 3% better offensively, defensively, we got 3% better in the weight room, we got 3% better GPA, we'd probably win 4 more games. It's not like you have to have great increments of success. It's like small increments of success. Success is doing a common thing in an uncommon way. Go ahead, hit it. You know, one of the things we talked about in that chart about success is motivation. And a lot of times I get labeled as a motivational speaker, which I love because I've studied motivation, and I coach. You know, as a football coach, we're supposed to be able to motivate everybody. And I've been around the country talking about motivation. I've studied it, read a lot of books, and the thing about motivation I've learned is you can't motivate anybody. So it's a short talk. Are there any questions? That's about all I got on that. It's just, you know, if they don't want to get out of the way of the bus, they're not going to get out of the way of the bus. If they don't want to play, they're not going to play. If they don't want to be there, they're not going to be there. And, you know, the person I find that I have to motivate is me. You know, if I'm motivated, usually my coaches are motivated. Usually the team's motivated. If I walk out and think it's too hot, too rainy, too cold, too boring, I've done this before. If I don't have my hair on fire, nobody else is going to have their hair on fire. And I really think that, you know, we worry so much about motivating others, and really the people we got to motivate is ourselves. You know, I'm the guy that's got to get fired up about going out to practice. I'm the guy that's got to get fired up about all those things we have to do. I'm the guy that's got to get fired up about going to recruiting. I'm the guy that has to get fired up about doing the job. You know, I can't wait for somebody else to do it. There's all kinds of people who want to take my job. You know, motivation's a tough deal, man. You know, and I don't know, if you can't motivate yourself, I'm not sure how you can motivate others. Go ahead, hit it. You know, the other thing about coaching, you know, we're supposed to motivate everybody, hit them. I don't know how you motivate. This guy, he didn't do his workout. He's not ready to go. You know, I don't know how I'm supposed to do it. I'm supposed to go hit it. This is another thing. I don't think you can do this anymore, but this used to work. Go ahead, hit it. And you know, again, I think a good swift kick has always been a good motivator. I love that picture. Go ahead, hit it. You know, I think there's thing about motivation is kind of an interesting deal because, you know, really everybody, you know, if you're a leader, you want your people to be motivated. You know, you want them to come to work or come to practice or come to your class fired up and, you know, what can I do? And I'll do more. And you want them so engrossed, you tell them, hey, you got to go home now. Oh, yeah, I probably should. You know, that's what you want. You know, you don't want people watching the clock and, you know, getting excited because it's Friday and Wednesday's hump day. That's hard. That's hard to motivate people when that's the deal. It's hard. And there are techniques to motivate. You know, there's a lot of problems with motivation. You know, one problem with motivation is it changes. It changes over time. Not everybody's at the same spot. I'm just looking around the room. Some of you are just starting your career. Some of you are ending. Some of you are retired and haven't told anybody. There's all kinds of places that you're at. You know, everybody's at a different spot here. Everybody's at a different place in their career, in their life, and so it's hard to get everybody on the same path because everybody's on a different path. And the other thing is, you know, motivation changes over time. You know, what used to motivate you doesn't motivate you anymore. You know, I mean, going to see Santa fired me up when I was 5, okay? It doesn't really fire me up right now. You know, when I was 8 years old, I was in the 3rd grade. I was a great speller. And there was nothing to do with I like spelling. There was a chart on the wall, and it had everybody on the class's name on the chart. And if you got 100%, you got a blue star next to your name. And it just fired me up. It just motivated me. And I was in a death race with Sally to win. And every Thursday night, I'd be studying my spelling words. I'd be, you know, my brother come in, hey, let's go play spelling test. And I've got the flashcards, and I'm doing it. And I was good. You know, I wish somebody told me about spell check and some of the other stuff that was coming down the road. And, you know, there was no chart for math. I just blew math off. And there was no chart for social studies. I didn't care about social studies, but there was a chart for spelling. Now, if they came to me at Menlo and said, listen, Coach, you know, we got a little budget issue, but every time you win a game, we'll put a blue star on the door. You know, I'm out of there. I'm gone. That's not going to work anymore. It worked when I was 8, okay? What motivates you then doesn't necessarily motivate you now. Motivation is just a moving target. It's just hard, you know. I mean, you watch football games on TV, they talk about motivation like it's a person. Like, oh, the motivation shifted, like somebody got up and moved. You know, it's really, I didn't see it. You know, oh, they're not motivated. They're highly motivated. They're sort of motivated. You know, motivation is this ethereal cloud-type deal. We really don't understand what motivation is. And there are techniques to motivating people. I mean, you can just scare them. You're going to get fired. Yikes. Okay. That's a good motivator. You know, you're driving down the highway, going a little fast. You see the highway patrolman on the side of the road. Yikes. You know, you slow down. That highly motivates you to follow the rules. Fear is a good motivator. Nothing wrong with that. The problem with fear is after a while, people get a tick. You know, people are kind of looking over their shoulder all the time. And you can't do that all the time. Boss man motivation is very common. If you're the boss, I'm the head football coach, I make the rules. You know, I say run, they run. I say stop, they stop. I say go home, they go home. I'm the boss. It's kind of cool. It's good motivation. One time I told these kids start running. I was mad at them for something. Then a kid came up to me and asked me a question, and a reporter showed up, and then somebody asked me another question. Then I walked in and started watching film, and about 40 minutes later, I realized they're still running. So I walked outside and said, okay, that's enough. And they looked like they've been on the Baton Death March. Or, thanks, Coach. I forgot, but I was the boss. They were going to run until I told them I love that kind of motivation. You know, the problem with boss man motivation, though, is that there's always a coup d'etat brewing. You always want to get the boss. And that's why most of us moved out of the house at 17. We, you know, just, time's about enough, all right? It's about enough. We just don't love, people don't like being bossed around all the time. There's nice guy motivation. Well, going back to boss man motivation, I got a great story on boss man motivation. Because the thing with boss man motivation, you always want to overthrow the boss, but you never can. It's just tough. And when I was in high school, I had long hair. I had a big old fro. And all my friends had hair down in the middle of their back, and we thought we looked cool. And we thought we were going to be rock stars, and the girls were going to love us, and it was going to be awesome. And nowadays, the kids all shave their heads. I call it the prison look. And they do it because they know it bugs their parents, and you know, and people go, "What are you doing?" And it just, you know, and it's just kind of the fad. And I see some of their hairlines, and I'm going, you know, you might want to let it rip while you can, because, you know, that could be a lifetime problem for you. But, you know, I was at my friend's house. He had long hair. I had a big old fro. We were going to be stars. He's 16. And he said, hey, Dad, can I get a car? And Dad was a great guy. He said, sure, son, you can get a car, no problem. He goes, couple things. Number one, cut your hair. It's ridiculous. Number two, you're getting D's and F's. You got to get some A's and B's. And number three, we get up every Sunday and go to church. You sleep in. You get up and go to church. You cut your hair. You get some A's and B's. We'll talk about a car. And I remember going out in the backyard. My friend was going, filth, foul, blankety blank, dad of mine. And I was laughing because I just could see him walking for the rest of his life. And I just was going, that's, you know, you're never going to get a car. And he said, I'll show him, because that's what you do to the boss. I'll show him. I'll show him. So a couple weeks later, I'm back at his house. He report card, A's and B's. Dad said, wow, that's great. How'd you do it? He said, well, I went to class. And he goes, well, that's great. And he said, well, son, we've been going to church and you've been sleeping in. And he said, you know, Dad, I've been going Wednesday nights and it's changed my life. We're going to go to Mexico and build an orphanage over spring break. And I appreciate you pushing me that. I've met some great people. I've joined the group down there. And it's really been great, Dad. And Dad's crying. He's almost so happy. I mean, he's just tearing up. And he said, well, son, you got to cut your hair. And my friend thought, you always try to get the boss. And my friend said, well, you know, Dad, I was at church and I saw a picture of Jesus. And, you know, Dad, Jesus had really long hair. And the dad had the best boss man comeback I ever heard. He said, you're right, son. Jesus had long hair and he walked everywhere he went. And that's why you can't beat the boss. You know, you can try, but you can't beat the boss. So, but you can scare people. You can boss them around. There's nice guy motivation. You know, hey, we'll give you a prize. You know, we'll give you, you know, put your name in a raffle. There's all kinds of ways to motivate people nicely. That's cool. But even my dog won't sit after a while if you don't give it a biscuit once in a while. You know, if there's no prize, a lot of times people go, well, what's in it for me? And so it works, but it doesn't work all the time. There's tricky motivation where you just trick kids. I love that. When I coach high school, I just make stuff up. And kids would just get, you know, I'd say, hey, did you hear what they wrote in the paper? I knew they didn't read the paper. No, coach, what they say, you guys don't hit very hard. Well, show them. Yeah, I just make stuff up. You know, yeah. You hear the talk radio? You know, yeah, they said you guys, our offense isn't very good. Well, I'd get them all fired up. I'd make up quotes the other team made. I love doing that. But now Google screwed it all up. Because kids will start Googling things. Coach, I don't have a radio station. You know, now it's the Google things messing me up a little bit. You know, there's inspirational motivation. You know, I was born without hands. I was born with 9 toes. You know, and a lot of people say, well, Coach, it must be great for you know, kids to play for you and hang around you and just, you know, see what you can do. And if it's a recruit, I always say, well, yes, it is. You know, make sure you come to school here. But, you know, I think inspirational, we all need inspiration. I need it, you need it. But I don't think my fullback's diving over the goal line getting his head ripped off thinking, my coach has no hands. You know, I think that's like number 400 on his list, you know. I don't think at that moment he cares, okay? You know, I think inspirational motivation is cool. I think we all need it. The problem with inspirational motivation is people are people. People retire, people die, people change political parties, people change genders, people change religions, people are people. And you know, you can't always count on that. So we all need it. Good. We need all that stuff. That all works. The problem is it doesn't last. You know, I love the movie Forrest Gump. It's a great scene in Forrest Gump. It's not a big scene. It's a great scene. He's running across country for the 3rd time. He's got a long beard, he's got long hair, and he's got his Bubba Gump hat on, and he's jogging. And there's about 50 people following him, if you remember the movie. You ever wonder, what are those people doing? You know, those people are, it's like they think Forrest Gump's got life figured out. And he's going to stop someday and tell them the secret to life. And if you remember the movie, he's running, it's morning, and it's by a beautiful lake, and the mountains are reflected on the lake, and he stops, and they go, he's going to talk, and I go, give it to us, Forrest. Like, what are we all trying? What did we give up our lives for? Why are we chasing you? Give us the meaning of life. Why have you done this? And of course, he's Forrest Gump, so he says, I'm kind of tired. I'm going to go home now. And the crowd parts because he walks through, and if somebody had a great comment, they said, great, now what do we do? And you know, that's the problem with inspirational motivation. That's the problem with a lot of this stuff. We're like, what do we do now? And I think the motivation that works, they're all good. And if you need some techniques, they all work. Go ahead, hit it. But what really motivates people, I think, is potential. Potential is defined as something that could be, but hasn't happened yet. Something that could be, but hasn't happened yet. You know, we could be national champions. Hasn't happened yet. But that's what gets me out of bed. That's what gets me going. I mean, you got to have a goal. Potential is something that could happen. You know, kids have so much potential. You could graduate from college. You could go to, you can do whatever you want to do. We have the potential to do it. And most of us don't really understand potential, you know, that we really don't understand what it means. And, you know, if this vase is you and the water in this vase is your potential, most people have no idea how much potential you have. You know, you know, if you work with young kids especially, they have no idea how far they can go, no idea what's possible. And they have the depth of a pie tin. They have no idea what's out there. They just kind of accept what you tell them. If you tell them they're great, they usually turn out great. If you tell them they're not, they usually aren't. But most people, if the vase is you and the water is your potential, most people pour out a little bit and then they just stop. They go, well, that's good. And you go, why'd you stop? They go, I don't know. That's just enough, isn't it? And they go, no. If you want to be successful, you got to pour out your potential. And we all have gifts. We all have potential. We all have things we can do. And most people just pour out a little bit and they, you know, that's enough. Most people just stop. And successful people are people that pour it out until there's nothing left. Now, I know that's kind of corny, but the reality, you know, I taught high school for a long time. If you didn't have props, you lost the class. So you had to throw some things in there at them. But I don't think, go ahead, hit it. I think this thing about potential is really an interesting deal because why do some people reach their potential and other people don't? That's really what is at the crux of a business. It's at the crux of a team. Why aren't we doing all we can do? Why aren't we as good as we can be? You know, why can't we reach our potential? You know, why do some people, you know, everybody kind of thinks there's a limit to potential. Everybody kind of limits themselves. Everybody kind of goes, well, you know what? I just have a little bit of potential, so I'm not, you know, I'm not very successful. Or some people say, hey, nobody else in my family did much, so I'm not going to do much. Everybody just kind of has a reason why they're pulling up. But successful people are people that go, you know what? Hey, I've got unlimited potential. There's really nothing we can't do. And those are the people that are doing great things. That's what we want to be. And you know, I had a chance to coach Jeff Garcia when he was in high school. I don't know if you know Jeff Garcia. He's played for the 49ers. He played for the Browns, the Eagles. He was all-pro 4 times. He had a great career. And you know, when he was in high school, I actually threw the ball better than he did. I'm not kidding. This guy was skinny. He was small. He wasn't much of an athlete. And I liked Jeff. And he had, you know, you go back to that chart about success. He had great leadership. Grandpa was a coach. Dad was a coach. Great family. Brothers, sisters, great family. He had great attitude. He had great motivation. He just didn't have a lot of potential. And when he graduated from high school, nobody recruited him. So he went to a junior college. And when he graduated from junior college, nobody recruited him. And he walked on at San Jose State. And San Jose State played Stanford. And the head coach of Stanford was Bill Walsh. And Jeff had a great game that day. And he was getting better every year. He's stronger, worked hard, he worked at it. Great attitude, great motivation. He graduates from San Jose State, doesn't get any offers from the NFL, goes up to Canada, bounces around there for a couple of years. Bill Walsh remembers this guy from San Jose State was a pretty good quarterback. He wanted to bring a guy into camp to rest Joe Montana and Steve Young. So he called Jeff up, just to come in, throw the ball a little bit so that those guys didn't get too tired. Somebody got hurt, he made the team, they traded Joe Montana, Steve Young come around, he hung around. Hey, he's still playing, he's like 40 years old, he's playing somewhere in the United States. Unbelievable guy. You know, why is he, I've got guys at Menlo that are bigger at quarterback, stronger at quarterback, can throw the ball harder, farther. They're not going to the NFL. How come he made it? And you know, to me, he got every ounce. He poured everything out, everything you could do to become a great quarterback, timing, film study, understanding, touch, all the things that great quarterbacks have to have. Jeff Garcia did it. You know, a couple years ago, I forgot to cancel my swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated. You know, that issue you can cancel. I'm sure you all do it. So it came to the house. It was very disturbing. And so I was reading the articles, and there was an article about professional athletes whose wives were swimsuit models. And one of them was Jeff Garcia's wife. And I started thinking to myself, Jeff, you have reached your potential in so many ways I didn't think you were going to reach them. I mean, you couldn't get a date in high school. So I mean, people have so much potential. You know, and so you know, what about two guys with different potential levels? You know, one guy should do it and does it, and one guy's got no business getting it done and does it. Yeah, that happens all the time in coaching. It happens all the time in business. It happens all the time with your children. It happens all the time. You know, I was at a high school. We had a kid. We called him Mr. Perfect. 6'2", 220 pounds, 4'6", 40. Could bench press the gym. Could carry the bus. I mean, the guy was, every muscle was clearly labeled and defined on his body. Great kid. Great leader. We let him get off the bus first just to scare the other team. I mean, when he put his uniform on, everything fit perfectly, helmet, shoulder pads, everything tucked in. I mean, it was Mr. Perfect. He had just one little flaw. He couldn't tackle. And he played linebacker. He didn't like to hit, and he didn't like to tackle. Otherwise, he looked great. And I'm telling my linebacker coach, fix him. I mean, if I was coaching that guy, he'd be in the NFL. Fix him. And I'm on my coaches because the guy's terrible. Great kid, though. Great kid. Looked good, too. He looked the part, just couldn't make any tackles. And the guy that was second string was this, he was about 5'3", his arms were 5'2". He had the worst body I've ever seen. He had a cube for a head. We tried to fit him for a helmet, and it's like there was space, you know, like you're shoving towels in there going, is this legal? He's going to get... You know, he would get rolled up in a pile. He'd get bent behind every arms and legs. He had no cartilage, evidently. He'd just pop up, and he made every tackle. But nothing fit. You know, you could hear him running. His pads would click and clack. You know, his thigh pads covered his knees. His knee pads covered his ankles. He looked like he borrowed his brother's uniform to go trick-or-treating. The guy was a mess. And we called him pre-dip because when you tackle, you have to get low. You call it dip, and he was born that way. And so he was pre-dip. You could just tackle. He didn't have to do anything. He was already low. And he made tackle after tackle after tackle. And now the coach is going, Coach, I think we should start pre-dip. I'm going, are you kidding me? We're Mr. Perfect. Just fix him. I'm on, fix him. Come on, coach him up, you know. We start Mr. Perfect. First game, he's terrible. We lose. We start Mr. Perfect second game. He's terrible. About halftime, we put pre-dip in. He makes every tackle. Third game, pre-dip starts. Mr. Perfect's on the sideline with me. There's a big crowd. There's like 6,000 people in the stands and bands playing. About the third quarter, I looked at Mr. Perfect and I had one of those gestalt aha moments, and I said, what are you doing? And my question was, what are you doing with those muscles? What are you doing with that size and that speed and all that talent? What are you doing? And he said, am I in? I said, no, you stay here with me. You're not in. Well, what are you doing, man? And he was a real positive. Go pre-dip. He was cheering, and nice guy. Nice guy. And he was so talented. He got a scholarship and just drove another coach crazy for 4 years. He was unbelievable how he just never reached his potential. He could have been something. And pre-dip, he did all he could. You know, he started, and then he started a destruction derby company and makes cars and crashes them. And now he's happy as can be. Why couldn't I get him? Why couldn't I get Mr. Perfect going? That drives you nuts. What about two guys with the same potential? You know, why did one guy make it and one guy doesn't? You know, I used to go to the junior highs in Merced and try to recruit kids to come out for football. And I get there, and I did it every year. And I got there one year, and the PE teacher said, Coach, it's too bad. We just kicked the best kid we ever had out of here, fastest kid we've ever had here. But you know, he's a loser kid, Coach. You don't want him. He's got 3 brothers in prison. Mom's a drug addict. Dad, we don't even know where Dad is. But man, that kid is fast. But he just got kicked out, and all I heard was fast. And I said, well, how fast is he? They said, oh, Coach, he's broken every record we ever had. And they had some fast kids come out of this place. And I go, you know, so kind of being Gandhi and Mother Teresa rolled into one, I said, listen. Let me work with the troubled fast kid. You can put the troubled slow kids over there. They're on their own. But let me work with that kid, see what I can do. And when I'm talking fast, I'm not talking kind of fast or high school fast, or I'm talking world-class Olympic fast. I'm talking about a kid that's got, you go back to that chart again, no motivation, no leadership, no attitude, great potential. That's all the kid had. I mean, he would eat a Twinkie for breakfast, borrow a pair of tennis shoes and a pair of shorts for PE, and he ran a 10-800 meters as a freshman. No training, no nutrition, just walked out of bed. 10-8 would, you know, that's world class at that age. He may be the fastest guy on the planet, but he's got the worst attitude, the worst. He's always in fights, always with the gangsters. You give him a pair of cleats, he won't say thank you. Give him a ride home, he just hops out and walks away. Always surly, always in trouble. You take him to the weight room, try to show him how to lift, and you turn your back, and he's so fast, he's gone. And you go, well, maybe tomorrow. His first game as a freshman, he's touched the ball 4 times, he scored 4 touchdowns. He's lightning in a bottle. Unbelievable talent. I can see it, everybody can see it. And we're telling him, hey, you're going to be, come on, stick with us, man. This is your future. You can do this. And, he's always in fights. I'd always look out my window, and the campus safety guy's taking him to the office. He punched somebody, cussed out a teacher, he did something wrong. And I'd open the door and say, hey, don't kick him out, he's fast. You got to kick somebody out, kick that slow kid over there out. Guy's slow. Love speed, love speed. His sophomore year, we bring him up to the varsity. We go 14-0, win the state championship. He's running wild, but he's still got a bad attitude. He's still dancing with the wrong crowd. He's not quite there. His junior year, he starts getting letters. Because his sophomore year, he comes in 3rd in the state of California in 100 meters. And no training, no nutrition, no equipment, just raw talent. He starts getting letters, and it's kind of cool when you're a coach because these letters are a little reflected glory. And the first letter, I gave it to him. I said, hey, man, you're going to get hundreds of these. You can go anywhere you want. Fill them out, send them in, act interested. You'll have your pick. You can go anywhere you want, just what part of the country you want to live in. What color uniforms you like, whatever. You're going to have choices. And it was a letter from Duke University. I'll never forget it. And he looks at it, he goes, what's a Duke? And I go, you're kidding, right? I said, well, come on, man, it's at a university. He goes, are they any good? I said, well, in basketball, but don't worry about it, man. Just fill it out. And he goes, who do they play? I go, you're cute. And I go, really? I go, come on, Florida State, Georgia Tech, come on. He goes, well, Coach, where's Duke? And I'm going, this kid. And I said, I don't know, where the heck is Duke? I don't know. So I said, well, it's in Dukedom. It's back there somewhere. And someone in the Carolinas, no, don't worry about it. And his junior year, he starts bringing a book bag. He starts hanging out with the right crowd. He wins 100 meters in California. Senior year, everybody in the country is coming to his game. This guy is unbelievable. He ends up getting a scholarship to USC. I turned the TV on a few years later, it's New Year's Day, Rose Bowl. USC's playing somebody. He's on the goal line returning the opening kickoff. 100,000 people in the stadium, millions of people watching on TV, and it's a pretty cool story. But it's kind of like the old Paul Harvey. There's a page 2. Because a year after they kicked this one kid out, they kicked another kid out. Same height, same weight, same speed, same socioeconomic background. Same number of brothers in prison, same family problems, the whole deal. They kicked him out, and he's fast. Same speed. They're not related, but they're basically the same guy. The second guy had a smile that would light up the room. He was a friendly kid. When he got in trouble, he'd wave to me, hey, Coach. So he went by. But, he didn't have grades to play his sophomore year, and he just kind of drifted away. And I'd see him around school. He'd say, hey, Coach, save my uniform. Save my number. I'll be back. And in his junior year, he joined a gang, and I'd see him around town from time to time. He'd say, hey, Coach, save my number. I'm coming back. But the gang decided they had to shoot somebody, and he's the guy that pulled the trigger. And the same day, one kid's standing on the goal line, returning the opening kickoff in the Rose Bowl, and another guy, same height, same weight, same speed, same problems, same potential, is sitting in San Quentin prison. He's never, ever going to get out. And that kind of haunts you as a coach. It haunts you as a teacher. It haunts you. It's how come they both started out going, hey, you know what? I don't have a whole lot of potential. They both started out saying, hey, there's not much I can do with this thing. Hey, they both started saying, hey, I got way too many problems to ever be successful. And then one guy said, hey, maybe they're right. Maybe if I pour it out till there's nothing left, I'm going to be successful. One guy did, and one guy didn't. And to me, that's what motivates me. That's what motivates you, is the potential of what possible, what could happen. Go ahead, hit it. Go ahead, hit it. That's good stuff, but yeah, change your life, but we just don't have time. No one has the potential to do it all, but all have the potential to do something. That's by Mark Speckman. That's me. I don't even know if I ever said that. I just want to be quoted. And so if you have a newsletter or something, feel free to use that if you like it. But I kind of believe that. I'm not one of those guys that say, well, you can all run marathons, and you can all climb Mount Everest, and you can all, I don't need to climb Mount Everest. I've got my own Everest in my life. I got other things to do. I think we don't have to do everything, but we can do something. It really, doesn't matter how good an attitude I have, it doesn't matter how good a teacher I have, I'm never going to play the piano. I'm okay with that. I can sit there and go, teach me. And I could practice, but it's always going to be chopsticks. That's all I'm going to get out of this thing. You know, I'm never going to be a sign language guy. I'm okay with that. You know, I could practice, I could try, but I'm never going to get, you know, I'm just going to confuse the deaf. It's always going to be a period and an apostrophe. Doesn't matter how hard I try. Doesn't matter. I don't think we got to do everything, but how about we do something? And I think that's a huge point. Because a lot of times you walk away going, I guess I should be doing, well, I think we can all do more, because I really believe that the vase is you and the water in this vase is our potential. And I just believe that we have an inordinate amount of potential. We have no idea how much, and most people just kind of, we just kind of go, that's enough. We just say that that's as far as we're going to go. Most people put a limit on themselves. They put a limit on their people, their co-workers. Everybody puts a limit on what's possible. And the reality is, it's limitless. What we can do is limitless. Go ahead, hit it. Figure it out. That's the name of my book. That's kind of my mantra. Figure it out. You know, when I was born, there was no class to take for parents to raise no-handed kids. Nobody knew what to do with me. People, there is no, every now and then, you know, there's no book in any bookstore or online, you know, how to live with no hands. You just got to figure it out. And this thing about figure it out, go ahead, hit it, is something that I want to talk a little bit about, because I think, to me, it's the crux of what, for me, has helped me reach my potential. It's this idea of figuring it out. You know, we all kind of want to be told what to do, or we want to watch somebody, but you know what? We all have this ability to figure things out. I am really good at figuring things out, figuring out how to use a buffet line, figuring out how to use a cell phone, figuring out if you want to shake hands or you don't want to shake hands, figuring out, you name it. Anything that you, wallets, buttons, zippers, all these things that you have to figure out, how do you do it? And I am so good at figuring things out, it's not even funny. I am so much better than you, you're not even in my class. You're not even close. I can figure stuff out so fast, it's unbelievable. And the reason I can is because I have to. You know, people that are blind hear 30% better than people with sight. That's a scientific fact. People that are blind hear 30% better than people with sight. And it's not like you go to the doctors and they go, listen, you're blind now, but here's your super ear, so, you know, that's the best we can do. Knock yourself out. The reality is we can all hear 30% better. We just choose not to. We don't. We don't have to. You know, when we cross the street, we look and we listen. If you couldn't look anymore, your hearing would go, it'd get better. You know, when there's a blackout in my house, I hear spiders. I hear everything. You know, our hearing is so much better than we don't use all our potential. That's the point I want to make. We kind of just do enough. And when, you know, for me, I've had to figure out how to use my potential to get through school, to get through life, to get through all these things. And a lot of it's just thinking differently. A lot of it's just thinking outside the box. And, you know, one of the things that my parents did when I was born they did some great things. They really did. My parents, they weren't college educated, and they were just hard-working folks. And they kind of just knew how to raise kids. But there was no, you know, if there were chores to be done, I had to do my chores, my brothers had to do their chores. Nobody got out. And they didn't know how I was going to do it. They didn't know how I was going to sweep. They didn't know how I was going to use the shovel. They didn't know how I was going to wash the windows. But if it was my turn to do it, I was up. And it took me a lot longer than my brothers, but I usually figured out a way to get the job done. I was good. I was fast at it. But one of the things they did is my mom saw a movie. I wish this movie had never been made. And it was about, I forget the name of the movie, maybe it's black and white, but the guy in the movie, it was after World War II. He was a World War II guy who lost his hands in the war, and they fitted him for hooks. Best years of our life, best days of our life, whatever. Doesn't matter. My mom watched the movie, so she thought if you don't have hands, you have to wear hooks. And that's what everybody told her. You got to wear hooks. Go ahead, hit it. And this is me with my hooks. I'm the one on the left. And thanks for going with me on that. And you know, hooks are extremely, there's no tactile sensation. They're clumsy, they're clunky. I was much faster with my arms picking things up and doing things. With the hooks, it was like picking things up with tweezers. And the way they work, you know, it was very awkward. But my mom said you don't go out in public without your hooks on. That was how I was raised. I was the third youngest person in the United States to ever get fitted for hooks, and so I was I don't know how old I am there, and you can see my older brother. He's kind of keeping an eye on me, because you never take your eyes off your brother if he's got hooks, because there's going to be a punch coming at some point. So you can see he's pretty well trained. Go ahead, hit it. And then you can see my little brother. He thinks I'm going to change his diaper, so he's getting out of there. He looks terrified. I don't blame him. Go ahead, hit it. And this is me. I'm on the left again, and I could never figure out why nobody was ever fooled by my costumes, but I wore hooks everywhere, and I hated it. It's like taking a guy in a wheelchair and putting spokes in the tires and saying, go. I mean, what took me seconds without the hooks took me minutes with them. And I'm trying to explain to people, I don't want them, I don't like them. And nobody listened to me. They said, this is what you have to do. And hooks were made by people with hands. And they're trying to simulate a thumb and a forefinger and the ability to pick things up. And I had already figured that out. I'd already figured there wasn't anything that the hooks helped me do. Go ahead, hit it. Again, my parents made me do everything with the hooks, like go to a petting zoo. That's like taking a blind guy to a movie, in my opinion. It wasn't real fun. And you can see my brother's kind of holding my arm because I'm trying to goose the. I'm trying to get the hook in there to see if it'll attack my dad. And that was my amusement at the thing. Go ahead, hit it. But that's kind of how I was raised. Not only did I have a problem, but I had a problem on top of a problem. Nobody was listening to me. And I figured everything out on how to button and unbutton things. I mean, I could do everything with my arms. Just as fast as could be. And I have to think about it, but once I get it, I'm good. Like if you work for Verizon, you're going to have a long day when I walk in, because this cell phone thing's driving me nuts. And I picked a kid up I was an office coordinator at this college. And I picked a kid up at the airport, and up in Portland. And well, he got inducted in the Hall of Fame. Here's the story. And he said, the most scared I've ever been in my life was the day Coach Speckman picked me up at the Portland airport, because he flew in from Sacramento. And I was going, did we get in a wreck? What happened? I'm trying to remember what happened. I picked a lot of kids up, whatever. And then he told the story that I drove up in my black Jeep Wrangler. It was a 5-speed. And I drove it because I could. And I always drove a stick shift just because everybody didn't think I could do it. And I figured out how to do it. And remember when the cell phones were like bricks? And so I had one of those brick cell phones. And I'm just, if the state of Oregon or California had followed me around, hands-free technology would have come into vogue way earlier than it did. Because I'm driving a stick shift, and I got the phone, how you doing? And I'm going, hey, just hop in. And he's looking around like, am I on candid camera? Am I really supposed to get in the car with this guy? And yeah, come on, let's go. And then the phone rings, and I'm going, hang on a sec. And I'm driving, how you doing? And hey, Mount Hood's right over here. It's really beautiful. And you like to surf? Right over there. And we're driving, and somehow we get back. To me, it was a day in the life. To him, life-changing. Because, I'd already figured out how to use a cell phone, how to drive a 5-speed, how to do all those things. Because that's my job. That's what I had to do. Somebody came up with the bright idea of using your finger as the cursor on the cell phones. Now, nobody contacted me. Nobody said, hey, you think that's a good idea? That kind of bothered me. Remember the styluses? I like the styluses. And there is one that came out just recently with the stylus. I'm so excited. But I'll tell you what, I've got this thing, I've made my own case. This isn't a workout. I mean, it probably looks like I work out all the time, but I don't. But, my wife and I, we sit down and we put together, I'd say, hey, let's cut this. And we have, I have all kinds of failed experiments in a drawer somewhere of things that didn't work. But there's a lot of things that do work. How do I get through the airport? How do I get my luggage? How do I get my carry-on? How do I, what kind of wallet? All those things, man, they take time and you have to think about it. It's not so simple. And there's things that happen every day that I've got to figure out how I'm going to get it done. Nobody tells me how to get it done. And the reality is that this potential thing is, I've got to reach my potential. Nobody's going to give me a free pass. Nobody's going to say, oh, you don't have any hands, that's too bad, you get a free pass, you're rich. The reality is, I got to reach my potential just like everybody else has to reach their potential. One time the cable company called and said, listen, you're a month late with your bill. I said, well, listen, I don't have any hands. And the guy said, well, listen, now you got two problems. You got no hands, you got no cable. And so, nobody really cares. We've got to keep reaching our potential. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Every day incidents happen. I call them incidents. I'll tell my wife, hey, an incident happened today. She knows exactly what I'm talking about. Something happened because I don't have hands. The most recent one is my cell phone. I just had a regular cell phone. I didn't have it in my little arms deal. And it fell in between this console of a rental car and the seat. You see that little area that's like 0.00002 centimeters wide? And I could see it, but I couldn't get down there. And I'm going, now what? And then it started ringing. And I know it was the 49ers wanting to hire me. It's like my one chance, and the phone's down there. And I'm looking at this thing going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? You got to figure it out. That's kind of how life is, man. You got to figure it out. Figure out your situation. And my mind's like a Rolodex. When I have a situation like that, it's kind of like ideas just come fast. So first one was rip the car apart. Tip it. All these ideas. And I've got, my butt sticking out the door, and I'm trying to move, and I move. Finally I moved the seat up, and I got a pencil, and I worked it out. There's all kinds of ways to do things. The point I'm trying to make is not that I'm so wonderful. It's just that I've got this ability that everybody's got. That if you came into a crisis in your life, you would have to figure it out, and you would figure it out because we have this ability to figure it out. Figure it out is this idea that, hey, we've got a lot of potential. Okay? And so many times we say, well, that's it, we're done. And we're not done. There's always more potential. There's always more that we can do. It never runs out. One of the things I wanted to do when I was a kid is I wanted to play baseball. And I really didn't care about baseball. I had an older brother, and he came home and he had a cool uniform. And it was white pants and a blue Belmont jersey and a white hat. He looked good. And I said, I want a uniform. He said, well, you can't. I hated people saying you can't to me. And I said, why not? And he said, because you're 10 and you have to be 12 to be in the league. And I like sports. And I really wanted to learn how to play. And I ended up playing. I played linebacker in high school. I played linebacker in college. I'm most famous in college football for being called for illegal use of hands in a game, and that made the, you think the refs are bad up here, that made the national newspapers. But I started 40 games in college. I learned how to tackle. I learned how to catch. I learned how to play. Never in my career did I ever think that I missed a tackle, I couldn't make a play because I didn't have hands. I just figured it out. I just figured it out. And before I tell you the baseball story, I'll talk about the football uniform real quick. When I went to college, I went to play football. And that's how a lot of guys do it. We think we're all going to the NFL, and we all think we're, and we have no idea that we have no business doing that. But I remember laying in my bed at the dorm the night before the first practice, and the team came in early, and I was scared to death. And I didn't sleep, and I was all worried about being in college and playing football. And I came inches away. I just came moments away from just packing my stuff back up out of the dorm and going home. I was that close. But I really wanted to play football. And what worried me wasn't about getting hit or not making the team or meeting girls or academics. What worried me was who's going to tie my stuff. Because the one thing I can't do is I can't tie my shoes. I've never learned how to tie my shoes. So I wear loafers, or we double knot my tennis shoes and they become loafers. And I walk miles with my shoelaces tucked underneath my feet because I was too embarrassed to have somebody tie my shoes. And my kids have walked miles with their shoelaces tucked underneath their feet because mommy wasn't home, and I had to convince them all the cool kids were doing it. And, I can't tie shoes. I just haven't been able to do it. But it was never an issue. It's never been an issue because sometimes if you want to figure it out, you have to ask for help. I mean, that's the other thing I've learned. We have this potential, but sometimes if you really want to reach your potential, you got to ask for help. You got to ask somebody for help. You got to ask somebody to help you. What I was worried about was who's going to tie my stuff tomorrow in the locker room. I didn't know anybody on the team. I was a freshman coming in. You know, when I was in high school, if you know anything about football uniforms, it's a lace-a-thon. I mean, you got your shoes, you got your girdle pads, you got your pants, you got your shoulder pads. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff. And in high school, I just kind of walked through the locker room, and all my friends just tied my stuff. They, you know, by the time I got to the door, everything was tied. Thanks, guys. And you know, because they knew me, and they were comfortable with me, and I was comfortable with them. But man, you're 18 years old, you should be able to tie your stuff. And so plan A was I was hoping the Disney fairy would show up and just sprinkled pixie dust all over me and everything would tie, and that didn't work. So plan B was I had to ask the guy next to me. And I wanted to play, and it was kind of a choice. You want to play or not? You want to move on? You want to reach your potential? Or do you want to quit? You want to give up? And I really wanted to play. So I looked at the guy next to me, and you know, when you're a freshman in college, everybody looks older than you. I mean, this guy looked like he had, you know, 3 kids and an IRA and a 401k, and I mean, he was ready to retire. The guy was a big old guy and beard, and I hadn't reached puberty. I was, whoa. So I said, hey, could you tie my shoes? I'll never forget, he looked at me and goes, you're kidding, right? And I said, no. So he kind of tied my shoes. This is where the story gets a little weird. I said, could you tie my girdle pads? He goes, you're kidding. I go, no. Because I knew if I got my stuff on, I could play. It's just if it fell down, I couldn't run real fast. So guys don't like tying guys' stuff in that region, so he kind of did one of these. I said, my pants, shoulder pads. And this guy's going, who is this guy? But you know, once I showed I could do it, once I got part of the team, once they got to know me, once I overcame my fear, and once I proved my competence, once I was able to do what I needed to do, it was a non-issue. Because most issues are, in the final analysis, non-issues. And I remember that, you know, a couple months later, we're in a game, and I'm, you know, in the huddle, and somebody slides in and ties my shoe because it's come untied, and I'm going, well, thanks. That's one less problem. You know, that's one less problem. You know, figuring things out, asking for help, understanding what you can do. I think all those things, I think, are just hugely important. And, you know, this thing about potential is what motivates me. It's the idea that, you know, I'm going to do more. I can do more. I'll figure it out. And it's not, it's a gift we all have. Getting back to the baseball, my brother said, hey, let's go play. So he threw me a glove. My dad worked 2 jobs. He was a, you know, a blue-collar guy. We didn't play catch. I didn't know anything about baseball. So I went out, and I thought, you know, I put it on the ground. My brother said, you're going to use a glove? I said, it's a base, because I'd seen a game on TV. I figured you'd have to have a base. It's in the name. It's a baseball. So my brother's a jerk. He said, okay. And he threw the ball. And I can catch with my arms and my body, and I caught it, and it hurt. And I go, ow. And I go, where's the little Nerf ball with the spikes? That's fun. You know, where's the tennis ball? You know, why are we throwing rocks at each other? He goes, it's a hardball league. I went, ooh. So I could throw pretty good. I'd already learned how to throw, so I threw it back to him. And he had the base on his hand. And it made a cool sound. And so I'm good. I figure things out. I watch and I go, okay, got it. And the ball came, hit, and then the ball and the glove went flying. And I realized I had a problem here. And you'd think my brother would say, oh, hey, sorry, man, let's go in. But he's screaming at me, you got to play, I got it. And I pick the ball up and I throw it, and I watch, I go, oh, I just didn't try hard enough or something, you know. And then I realize, you know, I've got an issue here. Evidently you have to catch the ball with this thing. So I'm trying to hold it, and, you know, and I'm just getting hammered. And he's throwing the ball at me, and I'm too stubborn to quit. And so finally I just did this. I just put the glove in front of my chest, and I let the ball hit me, poop, and then fall into the glove, because evidently you have to use this somehow. And I'm just doing this on the fly, man. I'm just doing this. We're out in the street, and I'm just in a death struggle. And he said, so he's throwing the ball, bam, and I'm going, oh. And then I got to put the glove down, pick it up, throw the ball up, throw it, and bend down, so I'm getting a cardiovascular workout, and I'm getting beat up. And I'm thinking to myself, baseball sucks. Yeah. you know, this is awful. And so finally his arm got tired before I spit up a lung. And I remember walking in going, man, that didn't work. And being so frustrated about baseball, and I'm never going to get a baseball card, and I won't be on the Giants, and I won't get the uniform, and why does he have to use a glove, and why is the ball so hard? And I'm laying on the bed, and I'm not kidding, I've got bruises and welts all over. And I'm in pain. And I'm laying there going, oh, I hate baseball. But you know, you're 10, you're pretty resilient. So a couple hours later, I'm kind of feeling better, and it's bath night, and I'm walking down the hall in my chonies, and my dad walks by, and he looks at me and goes, what happened to you? And I've got bruises and welts all over my stomach and my chest. And so I was playing baseball. And you could just hear his brain grinding as he's trying to figure out how that much damage happened in a baseball game. And he said, was there a fight? I said, no, it's just Mike and I. He said, did the kid next door take a bat and hit you? He hated the kid next door. He'd do anything to go get that guy. I said, nah, he wasn't even there. And by then, I'm feeling pretty good. You know, I'm going, yeah, I'm back. I'm confident again. I'm back. I go, well, you know, Dad, I'm a catcher. You know, Mike was pitching. I was a catcher. And, you know, I didn't have a glove. I just kind of showed him. I said, you know, the ball hit my chest. I caught it in the glove, and then I threw it back. And I'll probably play catcher in high school, Dad. And he's looking at me like, and he kind of hits me in the head and said, listen, you idiot, you can't play baseball. You're going to kill yourself. I remember thinking to myself, boy, if they ever do a special on you, Dad, you're not going to come out looking good, you know. That is some bad parenting right there. But, you know, he had a point. I was going to get hurt doing that. And I remember laying in bed thinking about baseball and wanting to play baseball and figure it out. You know, how am I going to use a glove? And I didn't have a glove, and I figured it out. I was 10 years old. I figured it out in my head, figured it out. Because we have this figure it out gene. You have it, I use it way more than you use it. And everybody in the country uses a baseball glove the same way. If you're right-handed, you put it on your left hand. And if you're left-handed, you do it the other way. That's how everybody in the country plays baseball. There isn't any variation. Everybody in the major leagues uses one method of using a baseball glove. But this wasn't going to work for me. I'd already proven that. But you know, if I hold the glove different, if I hold it like this, now I can close it. Now I got a problem. I can throw the ball and the glove when I catch it. But I got pretty good at catching the ball, flipping the ball up in the air, dropping the glove, catching the ball, throwing it. And I became an okay baseball player. I was never going to play on the varsity team, but I was a pretty good first baseman on a softball team. I'd go out and play catch. It was, you know, I got pretty good at baseball. And, you know, I told that story to a class once, and they said, well, you know, they came back the next day. They had about 6 more ways. You know, if you really start thinking about it, there's a lot of ways to use a baseball glove. We just never think about it. You know, think outside the box. Lots of ways to run a company. Lots of ways to get things done. Lots of ways to use a baseball glove. One kid said, hey, Coach, why don't you just Velcro it to your chest? You know, that way you wouldn't have to bend over all the time. I go, that's a good idea, you know. Another kid said, hey, you know, you keep your eye on the ball, Coach, make a hat out of it, you know. And everybody had an idea. Everybody had an idea. A lot of ways to play baseball. A lot of ways to run a company. A lot of ways to coach football. Success is doing a common thing in an uncommon way. And the point of this deal, and I know a lot of you, you know, kind of fired up about my vase here. You know, I gave this talk at Boeing, and there's actually rocket scientists at Boeing, and they were flummoxed by my little trick. And so I took the bus home. I just said, you know, if you guys can't figure this out and you're rocket scientists, I'm not flying. But the point is, this thing's never going to run out of water. We're never going to run out of potential. We'll never run out of creative ways of figuring out problems, of figuring out situations. There's people like me that are figuring things out real fast. But you know what? Every time I talk, somebody comes up and says, hey, you know so-and-so, he's got no arms and or legs. And, you know, I mean, there's always somebody with a better story. There's always somebody that's got it worse off. There's always somebody that's being more creative. And the reality is there's no limit. There's no ceiling. And that's what fires me up. That's what I hope people understand about potential and about figure it out and about what you guys could do in your company and your lives, is this idea that there's never a lack of potential. We'll always find a way. You'll always be able to get things done if you figure it out. And how you figure things out is going to be way different than how I figure things out. And we all have a different road. We all have different paths. We all have different gifts. But we all want to be successful. And so I hope that you got something out of that today. I really do. I hope that the way the vase works, you guys are nice people. I'll tell you how it works. The vase is you, and the water is your potential. And you have Unlimited potential. That's how it works. Now, a lot of people want to know the science behind that, and I'm always a little embarrassed because it's really embarrassing. You should know this. The way you pour water out of a vase, it's called gravity, and so you just pour it. That's how. So that's the trick right there. So I hope that answers that. But hey, thanks a lot. Have a great morning. Thanks a lot for having me here today. Thank you. Thank you.